Hello Bookbellas and fellas, Kira here, and today I'm going to be doing the Booktube Giving Tag. I was recently tagged in a video by Elliot Brooks called Booktube Giving Tag. This is a book tag that Elliot created. I'm going to leave a link to her channel right in the corner and a link to the video down in the description. Last year, Elliot raised $500 for the Save the Children Foundation. This gave the children a whole new bookshelf. This year, she's working on trying to raise $1,000 to give children 2 bookshelves full of books. There was no pressure to donate. I did donate a little bit because it's going to a good cause, but it does help children if you decide to. And if you decide to donate, I'm going to leave a link to the Save the Children Foundation in the description if you decide that you would like to donate also. Hey guys, Future Kira here. I got all the way through my tag video and realized that I didn't tag anyone. But I have 3 people that I wanted to tag for this, and I'm going to leave each one of their channels down at the bottom. I'm not really sure how this tagged thing works. I'm not sure if you're supposed to like email them or let them know. We'll see how this goes. But yeah, so if there's I tagged 3 different people and they're located down in the description area. Back to our normally scheduled programming. So in the Booktube Giving Tag, there are 10 questions, so let's just get on into it. The first question is, what book would you give everyone if you could? For me, that was Notes on a Nervous Planet by Matt Haig. Matt Haig wrote this book as a memento to everybody who experiences anxiety, and I think everybody experiences anxiety just a little bit. What I really loved about this book is that people who do experience a ton of anxiety don't really know how to deal with it or know why they're experiencing these anxious emotions. But this book goes in depth into explaining exactly what about our culture in general can make us anxious. Being the fact that everybody experiences a little bit of anxiety here and there, I think it was a great tool in order to help you deal with anxiety and deal with, the things in your environment that could possibly make you anxious. And that's one of the reasons why I think everybody should have this book. Question number 2. What is the book that you couldn't give a rat's hiney about? So this is going to be a very unpopular opinion. I've just heard so many gray things about it, and I mean, it's such a hyped book. Well, actually hyped book series, but I have no interest in it. I've heard too many, it gets really, really hyped up, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh, it's not that great. And that is the Stalking Jack the Ripper series by Carrie Maniscalco. I know, unpopular opinion, and I get it. Nothing against anybody who likes the series. If that's what you like, honestly, that's great. It's just not for me. Every time I hear somebody hype it up, it's like, then they read it and then it's not so great. And I really haven't heard a ton of positive things about it. And there's so many other things that I want to get to. And I just don't feel like I want to make time for that particular book series in my reading schedule. So the next question is question number 3. Given that the holidays are coming up soon, what book would you like someone to buy for you? So I read Brandon Sanderson's Elantris, and I have the paperback UK version. And then I went to his website, and then I have the leather-bound edition, and it's super expensive. It's gorgeous though. It's got all of the color details. It's got, it's just, it's such a beautiful book. But I loved Elantris. Out of all the things that I've read for him so far, and given the fact I haven't read Mistborn yet. We'll be getting to that really soon though, promise. It's just I haven't gotten there yet. But I read Elantris earlier on this past year, and I loved that book. I loved the magic system. I am seriously going gray over here, waiting for them to come out with the next book because I am just so anxious to have it. And I loved it so much, I actually just want it in a hardback edition. And so I even love the American hardback of the Elantris, and I just think it's such a beautiful book, and definitely one I'm going to be rereading and revisiting because it's just so good. Basically, Elantris has their own magic system. Brandon Sanderson is so famous for coming up with all of his own magic systems, and they're amazing. And I love everything about their magic systems and how when you dive into one of his worlds, you know you're going to get something completely different. Next question is question number 4. What book series have you completely given up on? Another unpopular opinion time. I am not going to continue with the Themis files. I read Waking Gods. I think it was towards the end of last year and the beginning of this year sometime. Not too long before I finished the Themis files, I had also read the Illuminae trilogy, and I really loved how wide a variety you got of perspectives. Now, after reading that book and then going on to the Themis files, I felt kind of spoiled. The Themis Files had alternating viewpoints between like an interview type section, and it also had the case files for everything. And so you didn't really get a wide variety of different perspectives in this. When you read Illuminae, you have all of these different perspectives. You have, you know, the perspectives from the video camera. You have the perspective, you also have a perspective of a psychotic AI, which just kind of mixes everything up. And so much variety, so many different perspectives, so many things, so many different directions like that you could go with it. And it's just the Themis Files, honestly, like I just wasn't feeling it after I read Illuminae. Like I got spoiled and I didn't feel like it had enough of a variation between different perspectives, and I didn't feel like I was in the story enough for me to warrant continuing on with it, which is kind of a shame because I had really looked forward to that series and it just sounded so great. And I just after reading the Illuminae trilogy, I just couldn't do it. Question number 5. Who is the character that you wish an author would give more time to? For this, I picked Bob the Skull from the Dresden Files. He is just so much fun. And I've read all of the Dresden Files. I love that series. I actually did an audiobook for him because it was just fantastic by James Marsters. He's just a great narrator. But I loved Bob the Skull. He was incredible. And it's like every time Harry let him out, some wild house party would break out. And it's just like, why aren't we a part of that? Like, why am I not involved in that wild house party? I really want to know more about Bob. Bob has so many mysterious things about him because he's lived for hundreds of years. He is this all-knowing entity that lives in a skull, and he's just a wild spirit, but he likes romance books, which is kind of odd. So it's kind of like this whole dual perspective, which makes him feel really realistic. And he's just such a fun and fantastic character that we don't really get to see too much of. Question number 6. Who is a character that you wish an author would give less time to? Well, you know, I might as well rename this book tag Unpopular Opinions because this video has been littered with them. The character that I picked is Peter from To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I loved that book. I love Laura Jean. I love her so much. She is such a great character. She's so much fun. She's loving. She's just got so much personality. But Peter does not deserve her. He is just, I just felt so indifferent throughout the entire book. Granted, in the movie version of him, they do a much better job of portraying his sincerity, but we're not talking about the movie. We're talking about the book. And I don't feel like the sincerity translated very well on paper. So I kind of wish that they had given less time to him and brought in a better love interest because unpopular opinion, wasn't really a fan of Peter. Question number 7. If you had to give up almost all of your books, which books would you not give up? So I had a few answers for this because that was a kind of a hard question. I am a lot more attached to my books than I thought I was. So honestly, like, you know, my Harry Potter books, like I would definitely have problems with those. Brandon Sanderson, any of my Brandon Sanderson books, like, difficult. Very, very difficult because I've loved everything that I've read by him so far. And then you have the Court of Thorns and Roses series, which I also read, but, you know, honestly, if I had to keep only one of that trilogy, I think it would be A Court of Mist and Fury because, let's face it, like, out of the trilogy, like, that's probably my favorite. And then, of course, like, Vicious and Vengeful because I am pretty obsessed with those too. I know, I was probably only supposed to pick one, but this was a really hard question. I mean, how do you just pick one? It's like eating just one potato chip. You just can't do it. Question number 8. What is the best bookish thing that you have ever been given? Well, guys, I recently had a birthday back in September, and I got a belated birthday present. And I have to tell you, I am so excited about this because Halloween is my favorite time of the year. It's my favorite holiday. I know some people love Christmas, but I love Halloween. That's my thing. I have been looking at everybody having all of these cool bookish items, and I didn't really have anything for this, and so, you know, this was just kind of icing on the cake because it's just perfect. So what I had gotten was this. You see it? It is a t-shirt wrapped in a good book, and one of my coworkers was so kind as to get this for me, and I absolutely adore this. I have been looking at bookish t-shirts for quite a while, but this is I have to say, absolutely perfect. And just in time for this book tag also. So very excited about this. Question number 9. What is a book someone gave you that you wish you could give right back? Okay, so in spite of the fact that everybody knows that I'm a huge book fanatic, I don't really receive a ton of books unless it's around Christmas. And so off the top of my head, I can't really think of a book. And I know, great big cop out, right? But I seriously, like, I took a week, I was tagged in this video about a week and a half ago. I have been stewing over this question. I mean, I don't really receive books unless they are on my wish list. And if they're on your wish list, then, you know, you typically have already asked for them. I don't really receive books as presents very much that I haven't already, like, you know, put on a wish list, because yeah, it's just not something that I receive very much of. And, you know, that's funny because, you know, I'm really into books. So yeah, haven't really received much of that. Question number 10. Name a time in a book that a character was given something very meaningful. For this, the character that I picked was Dolores Extract number 1 from Mem, M-E-M, by Bethany C. Morrow. This is kind of set in a futuristic world. Dolores Extract number 1 is this memory, and she was created from a woman named Dolores who extracted a memory that she wanted to get rid of into a synthetic being who replays that memory over and over again. Except Dolores Extract number 1 was an exception. She didn't replay that memory over and over again. While she does hold that memory, she actually became more of an individual. She became more of a human being. The doctor that was working at this lab that housed all of these extracts from various people decided that he wanted to take her home because she was just such a human being. And then he gave her her own apartment. And this was kind of to solidify that she was her own person. And it's such a beautiful story, and this symbolism was just wonderful, and it gave her this sense of freedom. And so it wasn't just an apartment for her, it was a symbol that she was a real person. Well guys, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this tag. I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I enjoyed making it. And if you guys like this video, hit the little like, hit subscribe, and hit the little bell icon if you want to get emails every time I post. And don't forget, at the bottom we still have that link for the Save the Children if you decide that you want to donate. And thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you again very soon.